Okay, welcome back to the channel, guys. If you clicked on this video, I'm sure you know what's going on in the Bitcoin space. Bitcoin has just had its worst month ever. Okay, you need to zoom out a long way if you want to see a monthly decline bigger than 37% like we've just seen here in June of 2022. You've got to zoom all the way back to 2010 if you want to see a month that is worse than what we've just experienced in the Bitcoin space. Okay, it's been pretty bad, and it has been a month for the record books. If we take a look at this article here, you can see Bitcoin sets record for the worst quarter since 2011. So it's not just the worst month, it's also the worst 3-month stretch that we've seen in Bitcoin in over a decade. Okay, so check this chart out here. If you actually have to zoom back to 2011, okay, Q3 2011, we lost 68%. Q2 2022, so that is that April, May, June, if my calendar serves me correctly, we saw a 56% decline. So worst decline in over a decade, okay? And lots of people have been saying, hey, look, this time is different. This time is really bad for Bitcoin. This little tweet here shows if Bitcoin closes here, it would be the deepest close below the weekly moving average in history in terms of percentage terms. This tweet was from 4 days ago, and we did close below that 200 moving average. So lots of people were saying, hey, this is really bad. This hasn't happened in Bitcoin's history. Another stat we haven't seen in Bitcoin's history, Bitcoin addresses in loss hit an all-time high. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this chart here. The addresses holding Bitcoin on the Bitcoin blockchain have hit their highest amount of losses in history. Okay, bigger than the 2020 crash, where Bitcoin lost 50% in a day. Okay, that was only 2 years ago. So obviously, and you're also seeing lots of contagion in the quote-unquote crypto ecosystem. So obviously you're watching the biggest exchanges around the world all go bankrupt. Okay, so Celsius, okay, they had $11 billion of stuff, we'll call them crypto assets, under custody in May 2017, and they obviously paused withdrawals in June 12th, sorry. 3 Arrows Capital was the largest hedge fund in the space. BlockFi, one of the largest asset managers in the space with $15 billion of assets, needs a bailout from Alameda. Okay, Genesis, Nexo. If you just go down the list, guys, you can see a bunch of exchanges halting withdrawals, saying, sorry, if you've got Bitcoin on our platform, we're not going to give it back to you because we never held on to your Bitcoin in the first place. We were lending it out, and we were gambling on these speculative DeFi markets. That we're going to do a whole video breaking down what happened in this quote-unquote crypto ecosystem, but we're going to leave that for another day. Let's just say all of the Bitcoin outsiders and the Bitcoin skeptics, they're pointing to the price, they're pointing to the monthly and the quarterly price, as well as all of the exchanges going bankrupt, and they're saying, wow, Bitcoin's dead, crypto's dead. That's what they're saying. And when you have a look at this website here, Bitcoin Obituaries, this actually tracks the amount of times that our favorite no-coiners and our Bitcoin haters have said, hey, Bitcoin's dead. Bitcoin is dead, and they've said it 459 times in history. And as you can see by the little red dots, the red dots tracks when we have our favorite CNBC or MSM articles come out and say, hey, Bitcoin's dead. You can see the red dots, they get more and more frequent the further Bitcoin goes down. Okay, that's kind of emblematic, and it shows that the haters only come out when the Bitcoin price declines. Okay, but we're seeing lots of this. Lots of people are saying, hey, Bitcoin's dead. Bitcoin is utterly worthless. You've seen lots of articles like this. If you punch into Google, Bitcoin has failed as a store of value, you'll see an absolute plethora of articles coming out and saying, yep, Bitcoin's failed as a form of money. It has failed. Bitcoin is not a store of value, as Yahoo Finance says here. But if you actually zoom through a little bit further, I like to tell people, hey, zoom out a little bit. Bitcoin is the best form of money in human history. Okay, it has a finite supply, 21 million coins. Nobody can ever debase your amount of Bitcoin that you hold in the Bitcoin network. So it's a store of value. It's savings. You don't track what your savings do on a month-by-month basis. Okay, I always tell people zoom out, and if you're going to even look at how much purchasing power your Bitcoin is giving you that you hold, you got to zoom out at least 2 years. And if we zoom out 2 years, you can see Bitcoin is actually the best performing asset. Okay, the best performing asset. That's even despite having its worst month and its worst quarter in history. Bitcoin is up 400% from its March 2020 COVID lows. Okay, it's outperformed everything. It's outperformed Cathie Wood with her ARK stocks. It's outperformed your favorite tech stocks, your favorite commodities. Bitcoin has outperformed everything from the COVID 2020 lows. But people are claiming, yeah, Bitcoin has failed as a store of value. Bitcoin is a risk-on asset, they will say. Why do Bitcoins, plural, Bitcoins, have value, okay? Everybody's hating, but they're not zooming out a little bit. They need to zoom out a lot, actually, in my opinion, because this correction is nothing out of the ordinary. This is a 13-year chart of the price of Bitcoin, and we can actually see I have highlighted all of the times Bitcoin has had a 80% correction. And if you want to have a look at it, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times Bitcoin's had a correction bigger than 80%. And there's 8 times Bitcoin's had a correction bigger than 60%. Okay, so this really is nothing out of the ordinary. But something that is out of the ordinary with this Bitcoin price correction is it was actually caused by an external factor, okay? So it wasn't actually anything wrong with Bitcoin why the price corrected. It's actually, the Bitcoin correction has been largely driven by the correction in equity markets, okay? So again, this is something I talked about in a video that I put out maybe 2 or 3 days ago. I'll put a link to that video up on screen today. But the financial markets are seeing their worst start to a year in decades, okay? 50-year high inflation, central banks trying to raise interest rates, financial markets are crashing, okay? So the Nasdaq's down 33%, and Bitcoin's been very correlated to these risk assets recently because a lot of these hedge fund traders are treating Bitcoin like a risk asset, okay? We all know it's not. We all know Bitcoin's a risk-off asset, but these idiots who manage hedge funds are treating Bitcoin like a risk-off trader. So the more volatile financial markets get, Bitcoin gets caught in the crosshairs, okay? And we've kind of seen that as well. This is another chart I wanted to show you guys. This is the MOVE index. So this tracks the volatility in the bond market, okay? Remember, the bond market is $150 trillion in size. The equity market is like $100 trillion in size. Bitcoin, it's not even $1 trillion in size, guys, okay? So we are a little bit correlated. We get caught up in the chaos when chaos ensues in legacy financial markets. So what you're watching here over the past couple of months since the beginning of 2022 is a massive increase in the volatility in the bond market, which is measured by this little ETF we're looking at called MOVE. So it tracks the moves in the bond market. And the current level that we're at right now, the only times over the past 20 years that this index has been higher was during the 2020 repo market fiasco and the 2008 global financial crisis, okay? That's how volatile the bond markets are right now today in 2022, and Bitcoin is getting caught in the crosshairs of all of that. So this kind of brings us to the crux of the question. Okay, if Bitcoin's correlated to the equity markets, when's it going to go up? When's equity markets going to bottom? Well, what's actually interesting about Bitcoin is it actually typically bottoms before the equity markets do. So we saw the exact same thing in 2020 when we saw that massive stock market crash in February 2020, which got blamed on the scariant. Let's just put it there. I won't go any further into that rabbit hole. But you could see Bitcoin bottomed on March the 13th. Okay, I'm just going to circle that over here. And then the equity market didn't actually bottom until March 23rd, okay? So this is a tweet I did on my work account for the Coinbeast Twitter account. You should definitely get around them while we're on Coinbeast. And you can actually see, so this is what we're looking at with the chart. We're comparing Bitcoin to the S&P 500. They're the two charts I have on screen. So why did Bitcoin bottom before equities? Bitcoin sniffs out the bad news first, okay? Bitcoin is the true smoke alarm in the legacy financial world, as Luke Groman puts it. And what's actually very interesting is we're watching Bitcoin's correlation to equities actually decrease, okay? So the 90-day rolling correlation with the US equities at 0.26. So this peaked after September 2nd, you can see here by this tweet. So this is very interesting. The correlations between Bitcoin and the equity markets is actually decreasing. So are we getting close to a potential bottom with Bitcoin? In the short term, nobody knows, but there's lots of signs that actually indicate we could be close to a bottom. So here's a few tweets here from Will Clementi. You can see the MVRVZ score that's in a historical good buying zone here. Okay, another tweet from Will Clementi that we're gonna get to. Also shows that Bitcoin's close to a bottom. This is a 4-year trend where we typically don't spend much time below this level, and you can see Bitcoin's below this level right now. Great historical buying point. And then another metric that says Bitcoin's relatively close to the bottom is the entity adjusted new pool. So again, whenever you're in the red, historically, that is a brilliant time to buy. The only other times Bitcoin was in the red was in the bottom of the 2015 bear market when Bitcoin was around $200 a pop. Again, 4 years later, in the bottom of the 2018 bear market when Bitcoin was around $3,000 a pop, you saw a red capitulation signal here. And then again in the 2020 we'll call it stock market or government mandated lockdown crash in the equities market. Again, Bitcoin was in the red, indicating capitulation. And again today in 2022, you're watching Bitcoin potentially enter some capitulation territory. And again, this brings me to the crux of what I wanted to show you guys today. I wanted to highlight something very interesting from a recent Glassnode article. Now, we're going to read this part right here. So let's read here, I have it highlighted. Alongside a historically bad month of price performance, exchanges have seen the largest monthly decline on record, hitting an outflow rate of 150,000 Bitcoin per month. 150,000 coins leaving exchanges, guys. That's massive, all despite Bitcoin having its worst month and worst quarter ever. So again, let's read this piece here. Overall balance on exchanges have seen an aggregate outflow of 750,000 Bitcoin since March of 2020. And the last 3 months alone have seen 142,000 Bitcoin in outflows alone, which is a remarkable 18.8% of the total supply. And my good friend puts it well here. Exchange outflows at this scale, especially in the face of such extreme downside price action, are intriguing to say the least. So here's the chart that kind of wraps up what Glassnode was saying here. You can see Bitcoin balance on exchanges. This peaked at 3.15 million coins in March of 2020 when the money printers got fired on, okay, all in response to our government mandated lockdowns. And you can see today that exchange balance has dropped to 2.4 million. So you've just watched 40% of the available Bitcoin for sale evaporate. And where's it gone, you might ask? So if 750,000 coins have left exchanges, the big question is, where did they go? And before I give you the answer and we wrap up this video and I give you guys all the takeaways from today's video, let's quickly hit today's show sponsors. Let's start out with Hotline Apparel, who is the best Bitcoin and freedom oriented clothing brand in the space. Trust me guys, I've been in the Bitcoin space for around 5 years now, and it's very, very difficult to find some high quality Bitcoin clothing. And like me, the two founders of Hotline Apparel were endlessly looking for more wearable, everyday Bitcoin clothing until they realized they could just make their own. And that's exactly what they've done. As you can see on the screen here, guys, they offer a wide range of hats, t-shirts, and sweatshirts for every type of Bitcoiner, male and female, whether they are loud maximalists or low-key sovereign individuals. So whether you're headed to the next Bitcoin conference or family reunion, get yourself some gear at hotlineapparel.com to spread the Bitcoin message in style. Today, guys, you can get 20% off the entire range at Hotline Apparel if you use the promo code BMS20. So that is BMS20. That stands for Bitcoin Made Simple. And you guys can also get 15% off if it's your first time buying anything at Hotline Apparel. I highly recommend you go and check them out. My personal favorite is the Ungovernable t-shirt. I've got one of those on the way and I'll be sporting it very shortly. But massive thank you to, again, Hotline Apparel. Check them out at hotlineapparel.com. Now, let me tell you guys about the Bitcoin Day conference that's taking place in Denver, Colorado in, you guys can see the countdown timer, 13 days time. Okay, guys, you really don't want to miss the Bitcoin Day event. It's going to be absolutely massive. You have a bunch of really well-known speakers here. You have Adam O from Upstream Data. You have Natalie Brunel. You have all sorts of people. You've got Adam Meister. You've even got me. I'll be ranting and raving there at the conference. So be sure, if you're in the area, come along to the Bitcoin Day conference that's taking place on July 23rd. You guys can get 10% off your tickets if you use promo code Luke. Okay, here you can see my big head. Promo code Luke will get you 10% off the Bitcoin Day conference that's taking place in Denver. 13 days time, guys. Be there or be square. And of course, you guys would know about the BitBox02 Hardware Wallet. I must sound like a broken record here on the podcast, but not your keys, not your coins. If you don't hold your own Bitcoin, you don't own any Bitcoin, okay? The exchanges, many reputable exchanges in the space have kind of proven to be acting not in your best interests. We've seen Celsius, we've seen BlockFi, we've even seen hedge funds like 3 Hours Capital come out recently and say, yeah, guess what? We're actually bankrupt. We were lending out your Bitcoin that you deposited with us, and we're insolvent, and we're going to halt withdrawals. Sorry, you don't get your Bitcoin back. So the time to take self-custody, far more important, is now. Go and look into getting a hardware wallet. I highly recommend getting the BitBox02 hardware wallet because it's the cheapest and it's the easiest hardware wallet to use. I have used them all, guys, and you can literally set up a BitBox02 hardware wallet in 5 minutes. If you guys want 5% off the BitBox02 hardware wallet, you can use the promo code Bitcoin Made Simple. That is no spaces, all lowercase, Bitcoin Made Simple. The time to take self-custody, more important, is today. So let's give you guys the takeaways from today's video. Where did all the coins go? Okay, let's read this little quote here from the Glassnode little newsletter. The largest exchange net position change on record is complemented by the largest illiquid supply chain since June 2017. A liquid supply has increased by 223,000 Bitcoin in July alone, reflecting a large-scale movement of coins towards wallets with little to no history of spending. Now let's have a look at the chart that represents that enormous change. Okay, let me get rid of that. I'll move that off the screen and you guys can see that is one of the largest changes in the illiquid supply chain in Bitcoin's history. So what does this signify? What does this signal? The strong hands who have no history of selling their Bitcoin are accumulating Bitcoins, okay? That is very, very interesting to me, and that is something I'm watching very, very closely, okay? Here's another quote from the article. Below the surface, the market is experiencing a number of very intriguing divergences. Despite a historically bad year-to-date and now the worst month of price performance since 2011, strong hodler undertones persist. And that's what I keep saying to people. I keep saying, look, I'll be very, very surprised if we see one of these long, prolonged 12 to 18 month bear markets, especially when you're watching an absolute supply suffocation take place. What was that? 150,000 Bitcoins in the past month has left the exchanges. That should give you guys an enormous amount of FOMO to get your coins off exchanges if you've still got them on there, okay? Now, I think that's where I'm going to wrap this video up today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay focused on the signal. Ignore the noise. There's so many people hysterically shrieking that Bitcoin's going to go to 12K, 10K, 8K, 3K. I'll be very surprised if any of that happens, guys, especially when you're watching this bullish fundamentals take place here in the Bitcoin network, okay? It's all down to supply and demand, and somebody's scooping up a whole lot of coins down here at these discounted prices. So if you enjoyed that video, guys, feel free to like and subscribe. It helps the YouTube channel out. We really appreciate all the support you guys give us. It is a little bit slow going creating Bitcoin only content, so you guys helping us out helps us get this content in the eyes of more people, and hopefully orange pill more no coiners and altcoin denialists. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping for you guys here watching on the Fix the Money, Fix the World podcast channel. I have an announcement for anyone who missed the memo. I have a new YouTube channel, okay? That is called Bitcoin Made Simple. Now, let me show you guys how to actually find that, because this is where I post all of my regular content, not just my educational videos that I post here, but also the interviews and the podcast form interviews that I do. So you go to your search bar, you go Bitcoin Made Simple podcast, and you will be able to find us. This is us here. This is our little logo. You click on here and you will see a host of videos, because I don't just post to this channel alone. I post to it with two of my other good Bitcoin friends, Phil and Corey. You will see that they also post their individual their YouTube interviews to this channel as well. Okay, so just not to confuse anyone, Phil goes by the logo ABNP, a boy named Sue, and Corey posts under the logo BMS. So you'll be able to see all of our individual shows, and you'll be able to see mine. Okay, so I post under the kind of acronym FTM. So you see this one here that I'm circling on screen. Fix the Money, Fix the World, episode number 13, and that is a interview that I conducted with two of my good friends. So anyone who missed that memo, head on over to the Bitcoin Made Simple YouTube channel, subscribe to that one so you don't miss any of my content. This is my main YouTube channel now. I post all of my content over on the Bitcoin Made Simple podcast network because it's a big benefit to me. I can actually post all of my content to Spotify as well as the Apple podcasting app. So you can also head on over to Spotify or the Apple podcasting app, and you can listen to all of my interviews and educational content on the go, in the car. If you're too busy to not actually sit down in front of your computer or TV and watch a YouTube channel, you can listen to my stuff on the go over there. So go to your favorite podcasting platforms and just simply search Bitcoin Made Simple podcast. We have the same logo, the one that I'm circling on screen right now, and you can catch all of my content while you're on the move. So thanks again, guys. Just a little bit of housekeeping.